Thank you for joining me again. I am Amber and I am a blogger over at rubydreams.com if you haven't been here before. And I've kind of talked a little bit about breast implant illness and just my personal experience with getting breast implants, having them for about 4 years, and then discovering that they were actually causing a lot of chronic illness symptoms. So I've gone over my symptoms and just general symptoms of breast implant illness. And I've also talked a little bit about the things that I wish I would have known before getting implants. And then today I want to talk about actually a couple of things. I want to let you guys know how I'm doing. It's been a year since I had my breast implants removed. So I do want to give kind of an update and let you guys know how I'm doing. And I also want to follow that up with information and different places where you can actually find support with either looking for surgeons or different medical professionals that talk about this issue, or support groups, different blogs, different websites. I want to provide that information for you. So first things first is, I had my breast implant, so I had them for 4 years. If you haven't caught any of my other videos, I had my implants for 4 years, and they were causing mild to moderate symptoms for the first 3 years that I had them. And in my previous video, I talked about how I, really didn't pinpoint what the issue was. I kind of blamed my issues on a lot of different things. And so by the time I had them removed, my health had plummeted dramatically. So I had over 75 symptoms, and a lot of them were really debilitating, very severe. And this is actually something I want to touch base on a little bit too, is that there are many advocates talking about breast implant illness that personally experienced breast implant illness, along with different medical professionals and surgeons as well. And the reason is not because, we hate implants and we don't think anybody should get them. Like, obviously, we all really, really relate to the reasons why people get implants. And there's really no judgment in that. The reason we really do share our stories is because of how debilitating these symptoms can be when you have breast implant illness. So I just want to really stress that, because I was actually just writing a post last night on my blog, and it's just my perception that people don't truly understand how terribly sick a lot of women became after getting breast implants. So I do want to stress that. So I had about 75 symptoms. I'm actually going to pull up my my symptoms list here, because I recently did a post on my blog earlier this month, because I got my implants removed September 1st, 2017. So it had officially been a year. And I wanted to update all of my readers on my symptoms. So my symptoms actually went down from, I think, 76, 70. I mean, it's all relative because I'm sure there's more. This is just the list that I created, but it was over 70 different symptoms. And they actually went down to about 22 different symptoms. So the symptoms that I still am struggling with is occasional intolerance to heat and cold. So I had severe sensory issues before I had my explant surgery. So I still will experience that sometimes, but definitely not daily. It's just a symptom that I notice I still have occasionally. Mild sensitivity to light. That was something that was super severe. I had to wear sunglasses inside, especially with places that had like fluorescent lighting, things like that. And I would suffer from severe ocular migraines. That does not happen anymore. And I still do get ocular migraines once in a while, but it's not as crazy as it was before. So I still do have a mild sensitivity to light, mostly, but not indoors. Definitely not at all. I mean, before I had to have every light dimmed in the house. My light sensitivity is only outside now. Or migraines, like I mentioned, which are ocular migraines. I still get those occasionally. But they're not coupled with, so before when I would get ocular migraines, I would get them with a severe, painful headache or migraine after. So that doesn't happen anymore. I haven't had a migraine in a really long time. I've maybe had a couple since Explant, but they were chronic before. Slow muscle recovery. So I still do have slow muscle recovery, probably because I don't really exercise a whole bunch, but before I was dealing with just severe muscle fatigue, could barely walk, things like that. So it's just notable that I still do have issues with that, but nowhere near as severe. Occasional achy joints. This is actually, it's been about a month since I wrote this, and I've really been noticing the joint thing just isn't an issue. And that was probably one of my first symptoms to show up after getting implants within a couple of months, but also one of the most debilitating symptoms that I had throughout the 4 years that I had my implants. And that is just not something that happens anymore. Swollen and tender lymph nodes. So that is still an issue that I have. And actually, I've noticed that that has increased a little bit more actually since Explant. And that has a lot to do with the way that the surgeon operated on me and performed my surgery. So, and that just has to do with my body detoxing all of the things that were in my implants. So, and this is something that you can look into my blog, because I do talk about my biggest regret about getting my implants removed. And that was the way in which my surgeon decided to take them out. And so that has caused some problems in that area for me. So it's related to breast implant illness, but it's not necessarily something that everyone will have issues with even after explant. Mild depression, I definitely have suffered with that a little bit, mainly just because I still do have lingering symptoms, and depression is super complex. I actually am writing a post on that about chronic illness and how it can affect your mental health. And so if you do subscribe to my blog, you can look out for that coming up here in the next week. So I still have symptoms of fibromyalgia, which is something very interesting, actually. If you go on my website and my blog this week, I actually am talking about how I am starting a heavy metal detox program. And so the fibromyalgia symptoms that I still have, they have a lot to do with oxidative stress. And so actually, I don't have my actual results here, but this is at least the visual measurement of oxidative stress. I actually took this test earlier this week. That's why I have it sitting here. But my color that I had was over here on this side of the spectrum. So I still do have quite a bit of oxidative stress. So I've been doing a lot of research on how to get rid of that, because as you'll see that I still have these 20-some symptoms. Not everything will go away just by removing the source of the problem. So these implants can cause damage for a while in your system. And so because I'm still struggling with some symptoms, I actually just started a detox program that was developed by a doctor. It's called True Cellular Detox if you want to look into it. But it's all about repairing your cells from the maybe I should do a whole video on this. I can talk a little bit about cellular, restoring your cells, because you guys, it's taken me honestly a full year to really learn about what happened to my body during the course of those 4 years that I had my implants. And it's really not cut and dry, and everybody is so individual. So some people's symptoms go away immediately. Others, because of just different factors. For me, I had an improper removal of my implants, so I'm still going to have some lingering symptoms. Other people just had just prolonged exposure to these implants also can slow down the recovery process afterwards. And I will say this, and this is something I knew even before I had my explant surgery. Now I'm kind of living it, and I am verifying it for you guys that it's true. It will take 1 to 2 years to fully recover from breast implant illness. So one thing that I think a lot of women expect is for them to feel better immediately. And I did. I felt better immediately, and so many women do. But, and I think I talk a little bit about this in my other videos, is that it's not linear. It is definitely up and down. And so just be prepared to have a couple of years of healing. But again, going from 75 plus symptoms to 22 now is unbelievable. And so while I'm reading these, I don't want to discourage anybody that having explant surgery is, not going to work, or because that's probably what I hear from women the most, is they're worried that they're going to, have this major surgery, have these implants removed, and it's not going to help them. It absolutely will. I have met very, very few people that have said it did nothing for them. And even in those situations, a lot of it can be other environmental factors as well, or just personal health issues. Anyway, I don't want to discourage anybody. Like I said, I've gone down from 70 plus symptoms down to 20 some. So I also have mild chronic fatigue. So out of all of these symptoms, all of them are fairly mild, the ones that I still have, but the fatigue has been something that has really, really gotten to me. Like, now that I no longer have chronic pain, which is like amazing, because that was probably one of the most depressing symptoms, one of the most difficult to deal with symptoms. So that's gone, which I'm really happy about. But fatigue is just its own monster. And so that is also something that I have come to learn through this detox program, and learning what I have from Dr. Pompa, who created this True Cellular Detox program, is that chronic fatigue, especially in cases like mine, where it was caused from some type of environmental toxin, even though it wasn't environmental, it was in my body, it's still considered an environmental, toxin. Chronic fatigue happens at a cellular level so often. And so I truly do believe that, once I get my levels down for my oxidative stress and start to repair those cells, that a lot of those chronic fatigue symptoms are going to disappear. Mild drowsiness, very mild. Before it was out of control, but it does happen still occasionally. I have flare-ups just like a lot of other people with like autoimmune type illnesses or chronic illnesses. So if you think of it just in terms of like, these mild symptoms aren't happening all the time. They're usually only happening when my body's kind of going through a flare-up, is the best way that I can describe it. And they're just similar to like detox symptoms. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not like a medical professional, so I don't know exactly why these flare-ups happen. There could be so many different reasons why, and honestly, you can drive yourself crazy trying to figure it out. But so I just want you to know that most of these symptoms that I still have are happening during those flare-up times. They're not constant. Occasional insomnia. Okay, so insomnia was something that was, I think I had to have mentioned this in my last video, because it was something that just really overtook my life and caused so many problems for me. It is so rare for me to have insomnia now. And honestly, I've had moderate insomnia since I was a kid, so it doesn't shock me that I still have it occasionally now. But it's not chronic and just crazy like it was before. I go to sleep like a normal person most days. It's just once in a while that I will have insomnia, which I think is normal for a lot of people. Mild bowel disturbances. So this was a major, major issue before I explanted. And that is just something that happens again when I have flare-ups now. occasional hair loss. So this is really weird, but this happens most often as well during a flare up. It was something that happened. I had so much hair loss and skin issues before Explant. And so now I'm really only experiencing heavy hair loss, like when I'm in the middle of a flare up, which is just, it's bizarre to see what my body's gone through all this time. So mild inflammation, that was a huge problem before. Again, it's just something that happens now um, during a flare up. Hormone imbalances. So I still do have some hormonal imbalances, but before Explant, and this was going on for years before I really understood what was going on with my implants. My hormonal issues were so severe, and without going into too much detail, it was really, really, really bad and really difficult to live with just in my daily life. And now my hormones are regulating, but they aren't perfect, but way more normal than they literally have been since I got my implants in 2013. So I have a lot of hope for what my body is doing and how it's healing, because I never had normalcy really until now. So, and that goes along with infertility. Because of my hormonal imbalances, I still haven't been able to conceive, which is, something that I hope will change. And night sweats. So that was something that I had pretty much daily when I still had my implants in. And that will still happen when I'm having flare-ups and going through different detox symptoms. So, and if you want to know how often these flare-ups are happening, for example, when I posted my 1-year update on my blog, and you can go check that out, I'm pretty sure my profile that's linked. But when I posted that, I hadn't had a flare up at all in about 2.5 months. So that was a really long time for me. And the one that and even if I did have maybe a tiny flare up, it was maybe for a day or two, or just kind of like I felt crummy. More recently, I had a flare up right after I posted that, of course, and was like, I was bragging that I hadn't had one in a long time. So I did experience one recently that lasted maybe about a week. And so they can really vary. In the beginning, I think I didn't have my first flare up for a couple of months. And then there was times over the past year that they were happening more frequently, maybe like once a month, lasting anywhere from like 2 to 3 days up to a week or two. So flare-ups will definitely happen with most people. I think it's pretty safe that all people recovering from breast implant illness will have flare-ups. Knowing what I know about what implants, it's pretty obvious that we will all experience flare-ups. Now, there are a lot of people that are doing things like detoxes, which I didn't do, and I talk about in my blog also this week, that can aid a lot of this stuff and lessen those flare-ups and really help your healing. So, and then there's also, having a holistic diet, taking care of yourself, and being able to rest when you need to, things like that, just basic self-care stuff that will definitely lessen your flare-ups. So everyone's so individual, but like I said, so it's been a year. I've gone down incredibly, and like I said in the beginning of this video, it's really important for me to stress how sick we were. It's easy for people to, I think even sometimes I get insecure because people are like, well, you still have like this symptom or that symptom. I just read them all off to you. I still do have, a couple dozen symptoms. And for me, that's such a huge success though, because a little over a year ago, I was mostly bedridden and could barely walk down my hallway. So I went roller skating today with my daughter and my husband for a homeschooling outing. And like, that was something that I would have never been able to do when I was in the depths of dealing with this illness. So even though I have lingering symptoms, I'm tackling them now with a, tried and true detox program, and I'm under the care of a functional diagnostics practitioner. So she's a medical professional that is walking me through this process. Um, so with saying that, and talking about, that there are things that you can do to really help your healing along, um, and all that, I want to talk to you about different support groups in places you can look for information. So I'm sure you can go and Google and search breast implant illness, and you may have a few things pop up. Um, Pinterest is a really good place to go and search that term, and you can find links to so many different personal blog posts, and actually, I don't know if I have it listed, but I have a Pinterest page where I kind of collected a lot of different articles and information, and a lot of people want to read the personal experiences, right? So that is a good place to look, is on Pinterest. Now, there is a website that is called breastimplantillness.com. So it's www.breastimplantillness.com. And there, she is actually listed like every Facebook group that is recommended, and there are hundreds. There is one Facebook group or there's one group on Facebook right now that has over, I think, 60,000 women in it. And I'm not in that group anymore, but, and I will say something about the larger groups. I really didn't enjoy being in the larger groups because there was just so much information, which is scary because there's so many women that are dealing with this, but just a lot of information coming at you. And I use Facebook for like family and things like that. So, but if you like being in those large Facebook groups, there is a lot of these groups where you can go in and just type any question that you have, and you will get tons and tons of responses, because there truly are so many people that are active in these groups. But I think there's like 150 some groups on Facebook. And so I'm in a couple of the smaller ones because I just don't have a need for that, but they are there. And so if you go to breastimplantillness.com, you will find all of those resources for all the different social groups that you can find. Instagram, if you're on Instagram, if you look up the hashtag breast implant illness, there are tens of thousands of, actually, I don't know how many, but I'm thinking quite a bit. One of the hashtags that I like to use on Instagram is Explant Tribe, or Life Since Explant, which will link to a lot of the stories that I've written personally. And a couple of the stories that I've written, so I have another website, licenseexplant.club. And so far I've written 7 different stories, women that got implants for different reasons. We all shared very, very similar stories, but I kind of wanted just to make a very relatable way of telling these stories, so that people can just relate to us, because sometimes it just seems like we're some obscure area of the internet, and I really want to stress that breast implant illness, while the statistics are unclear, but even the FDA and all of these different manufacturers are saying there's a 1% to 2% chance of all of these things going wrong. Well, when there's, I think that means that there's still like 35,000 women per year that are going to have issues with breast implant illness. So that's still a lot of women per year. So, and even those statistics, who knows how accurate they are. So there may be more. I don't know, I was going with that. But so Instagram, hashtags, definitely somewhere to look to connect with different women. And I love Instagram because a lot like this platform, you have face-to-face videos and things like that you can share or watch, if you're just on like an information search. There is a few plastic surgeons that are probably about 3 or 4 come to mind that are very prolific in breast implant illness community. and they share a lot of information on YouTube. So YouTube, if you search breast implant illness, it's a great place to watch different medical professionals talk about breast implant illness. But also there are now so many different lifestyle bloggers and a lot of fitness bloggers as well, because breast implants are such a common thing in that industry, that a lot of them now are coming out talking about why they've had their implants removed. So YouTube is definitely a place where you can go and look for information like that. ReversingBreastImplantIllness.com is another website that I really, really love. That's actually the woman that I'm doing my detox with. She's a registered nurse, and she puts out the most informative information about breast implant illness and about the science behind all of it, and just so many great resources that she has. So reversing breast implant illness is another.com is another great website. Facebook groups, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram. There's a little bit of activity on Twitter, but it's always something that you can search on there, just not as many things going on there. What else? If you www.breastimplantillness.com is if you're looking for literally the master list. It's not a fancy website. She literally has just put resources for you. So that includes lists of skilled surgeons, educated surgeons in every state and even across the world. Wherever you live, there is a handful of surgeons that you can go to or consult with if you're looking to get explant surgery. So that full list is on that website, as well as all of the Facebook groups that you can find, different websites. I think my website is even listed on there. So different personal blogs of women talking about their experience, and men too. There are husbands, and there's actually a plastic surgeon's assistant who is, I think his name is Jeff Rose, but his wife was sick with breast implant illness. So he became very passionate about sharing their story. And obviously he has the ability to actually help with these surgeries. And he's very active talking about that. If you're familiar with the medical medium, he has a fairly large platform, ridiculously huge platform. He's been all over the news and on different talk shows and things like that. He recently just did a podcast. That's going to be my next thing to talk about, is podcast. But so there are so many people now that are talking about breast implant illness. And I recently was talking with a family member, and they were telling me, I don't really see it. I don't see this information in my face. And so you have to understand, especially with social media platforms, it's kind of geared towards what we're interested in. So if you're not actively searching these different types of groups and articles and blogs, they're not going to pop up in your feed. So that's why I'm really suggesting searching Pinterest, using, the specific terms, explant, breast implant illness. I guess those are really breast implant illness, even silicone toxicity, heavy metal toxicity, MTHFR gene mutation. That's when you get a little bit further into the research, but that's something you can find information on as well. So I think what's most important when you're doing these searches is those terms. So explant surgery, a lot of people might just Google, issues with breast implants or things like that, and you may not come up with that information. So silicone toxicity, heavy metal toxicity. There have been so many different names over the past 30, 40 years for breast implant illness. Breast implant illness is a term that I think has been created in our community, is not necessarily recognized by the entire medical community, but it's a term that helps connect us and helps us to find information. So I do use it, but there are literally 20, 30 other different terms that have been used over the years. silicone adjuvant disease, I think. Just implant illness is something that you can look up as well. Oh, medical device problems. That is another term that you can search. Medical device problems. There are different Facebook groups where you can talk, and it doesn't just talk about implants, but we'll give you kind of the information and the different places where you can look. There are a couple of different documentaries on breast implant illness. Most recently, I think I talked about this in the last video, the Bleeding Edge documentary, and that's on Netflix right now. It's not about breast implant illness. It touches on it, but it's more about medical device safety. And so definitely medical device safety or medical device issues, medical device problems, explant surgery, explant surgeons. These are all terms that you can search into YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, and definitely Facebook as well. So I hope that helps. Again, I want to put this out there that you can message me directly through this app. You can find me on my website. I'm really active over on Instagram pretty much every day, and that's a place where I really connect with a lot of my readers or people that are just interested in kind of my journey. And I'm not any kind of expert when it comes to breast implant illness, but I do share my experience and everything that I've learned. So I really hope that this has been helpful, and let me know what else you would like to hear from me. All right, have a great night.